I always believed I was one of the lucky ones. When I first met Thomas, he had that quiet charm, the kind that makes you believe the world is gentle. He was tall, kind-eyed, and always spoke with respect. I was 24, full of dreams and hope. We married in a small church surrounded by flowers and promises. I built my world around him, every corner of it filled with love. Our first few years were beautiful dinners filled with laughter. Mornings where he kissed my forehead before leaving for work. Nights when he'd hold me close and whisper, "You're my everything, Anna." I believed him. I built our home brick by brick, choosing every curtain, every color, every scent that made the place ours. People would often say, "Anna, you're so lucky. Thomas adores you," and I smiled, thinking, yes, I am. But what I didn't know then was that sometimes the calmest oceans hide the deepest storms. Years passed, and our love aged with time. But something changed around our 15th anniversary. Thomas began coming home late, his phone always in his hand, his smile less warm, his touch less tender. At first, I told myself he was just tired. Work, maybe. Stress. But then he started guarding his phone like a secret diary. Once, I tried to hold his phone when it buzzed beside him, and he snatched it so fast that my heart froze. "Don't touch that, Anna," he said sharply. I laughed awkwardly. I said don't. That was the first time his voice cut through me like glass. Nights grew longer, colder. He started smelling of a perfume I didn't own, wearing a smile I didn't recognize. One evening, while cleaning his blazer, I found a lipstick stained soft pink. "I don't wear pink." I stood there holding that fabric, my hands trembling. Something deep inside me whispered, "The man you love is no longer yours." I tried to ignore the signs, but pain has a way of breaking through silence. One rainy afternoon, he said he had to go on a business trip. My heart, suspicious and desperate, pushed me to do something I never thought I would. Follow him. I borrowed my neighbor's car and drove after him quietly. He didn't go to a hotel or a meeting. He went to a quiet street on the other side of town, parked, and walked into a small blue house. I sat there for almost an hour before curiosity and heartbreak won over fear. When he finally came out, he wasn't alone. A woman followed him, younger, graceful, holding his hand like they'd done it 1,000 times before. And then, a little boy ran to him yelling, "Daddy!" I froze. My world, the one I had built with my own hands, collapsed right there in the rain. My Thomas had another family. I drove home like a ghost, tears blurring the road. I didn't scream. I didn't break. I just sat in silence, the kind that feels like death. That night, when he walked in, pretending everything was normal, I greeted him with a calmness that scared even me. "How was the business trip?" I asked softly. "It was fine," he said, loosening his tie. I walked closer, holding his jacket, the same one that carried that lipstick stain. "Did she like the gift you bought her?" His face turned white. "What are you talking about?" "You know what I'm talking about, Thomas." My voice cracked. "The woman, the child, the life you built behind my back." He tried to deny it, but the lie stumbled from his mouth like broken glass. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said one thing. "Thomas, I built this home with my own hands, but you've already torn it down." He looked at me with guilt, fear, and something else, cowardice. That night, he slept in silence, and I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, realizing that my life was about to change forever, because the woman who had once built her world around him was now planning how to survive without him. Days that followed my discovery felt heavier than the years I had lived. Michael would come home, kiss my cheek like always, and ask, "How was your day, Sarah?" And I would smile, pretend, lie, because I knew the truth buried behind his kind tone, the warmth that once belonged only to me. Every gesture, every word he spoke, became a performance, and I was his silent audience. I watched his eyes, looking for guilt, but he was too practiced, too confident. One night, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at myself. The woman staring back looked like me, but something had changed. My eyes were colder, my lips trembled with anger that had nowhere to go. Why, Michael? I whispered to the reflection. Why did you have to destroy the one thing that was real? I thought about the woman, the one he called baby in those messages, the one who lived in that little house 2 towns away, the woman who had my husband's smile. I didn't confront him, not yet. I wanted to see how far his lies would stretch before they broke him. One afternoon, when Michael said he was working late, I followed him. My heart pounded so loudly that I feared he would hear it even from his car. He drove down the old highway and stopped near a small house. A woman came out. She was younger, maybe in her early 30s. And then, a child ran out after her. A little boy. With Michael's eyes, my breath left me. My body froze. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a lifetime of lies crashing down on me. I couldn't cry. I couldn't even scream. I just stood there, watching him lift the boy, twirl him in the air, and kiss the woman's forehead. I turned away before he could see me. On the way home, my hands shook so hard I could barely drive. I stopped the car halfway and screamed into the steering wheel. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I sat by the window, staring into the dark, whispering to myself, he has a family. And I was the fool who built his dream. The next morning, I cooked breakfast like nothing happened. Michael came down, humming, smiling. You're quiet today, he said. I looked up and smiled faintly. Just tired, I said. He kissed my forehead, grabbed his coffee, and left for work. That evening, when he returned, I was waiting for him. On the dining table, I had placed 3 photos: him, the woman, and the child. When he saw them, his face went pale. Sarah, where did you get these? He stammered. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything. I just said, from the world you thought I'd never find. He started trembling, tried to explain. It's not what you think. Then what is it, Michael? I finally shouted. A charity project? A hobby? Or did you just want to play house twice? He stepped closer, tears in his eyes. Please, Sarah. It's complicated. I laughed bitterly. No, Michael. It's simple. You lied. You cheated. You built a second life on the ashes of our first. And then I walked away, not from the argument, but from the woman I used to be. That night, I packed his things. He begged, pleaded, cried, but I said nothing. When he tried to touch me, I stepped back. You took away my peace, I said softly. Now I'll take away yours. He left the next morning, swearing he'd make things right. But I knew the truth. Once a man builds a second life, the first one dies. Yet, as the days passed, something inside me changed. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was awakened. I started documenting everything: bank transfers, property, phone records. If he wanted to destroy me, I would make sure he went down first. But revenge, I learned, isn't loud. It's quiet, cold, patient, like a storm gathering over calm waters. And when it finally comes, it doesn't warn you. Days turned into weeks, but sleep refused to come to me. Every night, I'd stare at the ceiling, my heart heavy, my mind replaying every lie he ever told. I could still hear his voice. You're my only one, Sarah. Those words used to mean comfort. Now, they made my skin crawl. I realized something painful yet powerful. When love breaks, the heart doesn't just bleed. It transforms. It sharpens into something stronger, something that refuses to die quietly. Michael had taken away my trust, my peace, and my years. But he had also given me something he didn't expect: purpose. I began planning, not out of hatred, but justice. I wanted him to feel the same suffocating pain I had lived with. Every morning, I'd sit by the kitchen window, notebook in hand, pretending to read recipes. But instead, I was writing timelines, names, and small details, everything I had learned about his other life, where he went, who he met, what he spent. I became my own detective, my own avenger. He thought he could keep both worlds apart, but he didn't know that I had quietly started blending them one piece at a time. It began with the finances. I had been the one managing his business accounts for years, even before he met her. I knew every transaction, every password, every loophole. I didn't steal anything. I didn't touch his money. I just redirected things slightly, invisibly. A forgotten payment here, a small technical error there. He didn't notice. But the damage had started when he called the bank one morning, confused about a missing transfer. I smiled quietly while washing the dishes. He had no idea that his empire was slowly cracking the same way he had cracked my heart. One evening, I went to visit that little house again. Not to confront her, but to understand. The woman, Clara, was outside watering her plants. She looked peaceful, unaware. Her little boy, Michael's son, played with a toy car by the porch. I didn't hate her. I pitied her. She was just another woman fed on lies. I watched for a long time before turning away. As I walked back to my car, she called out, "Excuse me, do I know you?" I turned, forcing a polite smile. "No, dear," I said softly. "You will. Soon." That night, Michael came home restless. He had started drinking again. He mumbled something about work pressure, but I saw the cracks, the sleeplessness, the guilt, the panic. He sat on the couch, rubbing his forehead. "Sarah, everything's falling apart. I don't know what's happening to me." I looked at him. The same man who had once made me feel safe now looked like a stranger drowning in his own deceit. And for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I placed a hand on his shoulder and said quietly, "Maybe this is just life teaching you a lesson, Michael. The kind of lesson money can't fix." He stared at me, confused, his eyes searching for warmth that no longer existed. But all he found was silence. Weeks later, the collapse began. His company faced an audit, one triggered by an anonymous report. His secret expenses, his unregistered assets, even the house he bought for Clara all surfaced. The panic in his voice the day he got the news still echoes in my ears. "Sarah, someone's trying to destroy me," he shouted, pacing around. I looked at him calmly and said, "Maybe it's just karma finally catching up." He didn't know that karma had my handwriting. The walls around him began closing in slowly, precisely, mercilessly. Clara found out about me soon after. I know because she showed up at my door one evening, crying, holding her child. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked between sobs. I looked at her and replied softly, "Because you wouldn't have believed me." I didn't believe it myself for years. She wept harder, and for the first time, I saw my own reflection in her pain. Both of us were victims of the same man's greed for love and power. I gave her a cup of tea and said, "He fooled both of us, Clara, but he won't anymore." We sat there in silence, two broken women bound by betrayal. When Michael came home that night and saw Clara leaving my house, his face went white. "Sarah, what did you do?" he demanded. I looked at him with calm eyes. "Nothing, Michael. Just introduce two parts of your life to each other." He collapsed into a chair, his hands trembling. "You've ruined everything." I leaned forward, my voice low and steady. "No, Michael, you did. I'm just watching it fall." By the next morning, the news had spread: the business scandal, the affair, the collapse. He tried to call people, fix things, hide evidence, but it was too late. Everything he built on lies was crumbling, and me? I felt no joy, no satisfaction, just closure. For years, I had cried alone in silence. Now, he sat in that same silence, the kind that suffocates, the kind that doesn't let you breathe. When he finally broke down and said, "Sarah, please, help me," I turned away, whispering to myself, help was all I ever offered. You were the one who refused it. That night, I stood by the window, watching the rain pour over the city. Lightning flashed across the sky, and for the first time in years, I felt free. Not because I had destroyed him, but because I had found myself again. My revenge wasn't about ending his life. It was about reclaiming mine, and in that quiet victory, I realized sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't what you do to them. It's what you finally stop letting them do to you. Days had passed since Sarah discovered the last piece of her husband's lies. She sat quietly on her balcony, watching the rain hit the cold tiles. The world looked peaceful outside, but inside her a storm raged. Her heart ached, but her mind had never been clearer. For years, she had drowned in confusion, asking herself, why wasn't I enough? Now she finally understood it was never about her worth, but about his weakness. Her husband, Ryan, had built his world on deceit, but it was about to crumble in front of him. Sarah had every detail prepared. Every secret message, every hidden document, and every picture that showed the truth. About his second family, she didn't want to destroy him with anger. She wanted the world to see what he truly was, and that moment was closer than ever. Her best friend Nita, the only person she had trusted with her plan, whispered softly on the phone, "Are you ready, Sarah? Once this goes public, there's no turning back." Sarah's reply was calm but full of hidden fire. "He burned everything I had, Nita. My love, my faith, my peace. Now, I'll return the ashes." It was Ryan's company's 10th anniversary gala, the perfect stage for his downfall. The hall glittered with chandeliers, laughter echoed, cameras flashed, and Ryan stood proud in his black suit, speaking about honesty, loyalty, and family values. Sarah stood at the back, silent, wearing a graceful silver gown that reflected the lights like a calm sea hiding a storm beneath. Her heart was pounding, but her face carried a strange serenity. As the speech ended, she stepped forward. The crowd turned, murmurs began, and Ryan froze mid-smile. "Sarah?" he whispered, his voice trembling. She smiled gently, the same smile she once gave him when she loved him. But tonight, that smile carried fire. She held up a small remote. The projector screen behind Ryan flickered, and within seconds, his hidden world unfolded before everyone. Videos, pictures, receipts, his second wife, his secret child, his lies laid bare. Gasps filled the hall. The man who was once admired became the center of humiliation. Ryan's voice broke. "Sarah, please, not here." But she didn't stop. Her voice was soft, yet it echoed like thunder. "You taught me what betrayal feels like, Ryan. Tonight, I'm teaching you what truth looks like." She turned and walked away, her heels clicking like the rhythm of a heart finally free. The next morning, the scandal was everywhere. News headlines screamed his name. Clients withdrew. His company stock crashed overnight. Ryan tried to reach her dozens of times, but she didn't answer. He sat alone in his office, staring at a photo of his once perfect family, tears burning his eyes. For the first time, the man who broke hearts tasted the bitterness of loss. Sarah, on the other hand, sat in silence, looking out at the morning sun. Nita came over, holding her hand. "You did it, Sarah. It's over now." Sarah smiled faintly. "No, Nita, it's not over. It's just the beginning of me," because revenge was never her true goal. She didn't want his destruction. She wanted her freedom, the version of herself that once existed before the lies. Later that day, she visited her parents' grave, whispered softly, "I lost myself trying to love someone who never deserved it. But I found myself again, and I'll never let anyone bury me in silence." Months passed. Sarah moved to a new city, started a new life, and began working as a counselor for women who had faced betrayal and emotional trauma. Her story inspired many. She became a symbol of strength rising from heartbreak. One evening, as she walked along the beach, she received an email. It was from Ryan. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I've lost everything. I can't sleep. I can't live with what I've done. Please, if you can, forgive me." She stared at the message for a long time. Then, with steady hands, she replied, "I forgave you the moment I let you go. Because forgiveness isn't for you, it's for my peace." She pressed send, then closed her phone. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in gold and crimson, a symbol of endings and new beginnings. As the waves touched her feet, she whispered to herself, "He betrayed me when I had nothing. But now, I have everything myself." And with that, Sarah walked forward not as a victim, but as a woman reborn.